Hey everyone. Please support what I do to help keep Greyhawk alive by subscribing to the channel. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos, exclusive live chats, quarterly adventure modules, and more. Thanks, and enjoy the show.
I want to talk about a very special and important pair of nations in the Flanaess, Urnst, today on Greyhawk Wars. In the central area of the Flanaess, just to the east of the Near Dive, we have a pair of nations, the County of Urnst and the Duchy of Urnst. These are very important in the overall scheme of things in the world of Greyhawk. And I wanted to take some time to talk about the two of them, and I talk about them together because they are pretty much of a set. I'm going to start off with my handy dandy and well worn copy of the Guide to the World of Greyhawk, now missing a cover because I've used it so much. And starting at the top, the County of Urnst is ruled by Her Noble Brilliancy, the Countess Belisica of Urnst, of House Geller. It's interesting to note. Population 200,000 with some halflings and a few other demi-humans. They have food, cloth, and gold. Um, the It's a bit of the uh, both Ernst states used to be part of first the Great Kingdom of Erde and then Nairon. Once Nairon broke free from the Great Kingdom, and then within a relatively short period of time, the two Ernst states uh, broke away from Nairon. So you have this kind of ripple effect of things cleaving off from the Great Kingdom. Um, the County of Ernst is primarily an agricultural community. They have a couple of big cities. We do know from the Rogue book, the first one, Saga of Old City, that one of the first things that Gord notices when he visits Radagast City, which is the capital of County of Ernst, is that the architecture is so much different than what he's used to in Greyhawk, and he loves it. And it's it proves the kind of foreignness and alienness of the country, and that actually leads to an interesting point. I've done that myself in games when I want to make a point about the fact that yes, you have traveled from one place to another, and it's now different. Is to mention the fact that you can tell that the architecture is different. The roofs here seem steeper, or you notice that many of the buildings here have a second floor that juts out over the street a little bit, which you're not used to seeing, and where you come from, that kind of thing, and just add a little bit of flavor and color, and reinforce the fact that your characters are have traveled, and I kind of like that idea. Um, there is a kind of a back and forth between the Duke and the Countess of Ernst. The Duke is constantly trying to merge the two states into one, and the Countess is kind of keeping him at arm's length. So we'll get to that when we talk about the duchy some more. Um, the county maintains a small but efficient squadron of warships on the near dive, an army of 2,000 horse and foot garrisons, 2,000 horse and foot garrisons the key strongholds, and levies can raise another 20,000. Um, After the Greyhawk Wars, the county of Ernst, has fared really well. They didn't really see any fighting, even though on the other side of the Artanzame River, in what was formerly the Shield Lands and the Bandit Kingdoms, is now ruled by Ayus or Ias. I'm not going to get to that again. Uh, um, uh, even so, they didn't really see a lot of fighting, and they have actually come out of this better because they've started taxing all the refugees that have flooded in, especially a lot of the people from the Duchy of Ten, which was wiped out by the allies of Yaz in the north, from Stonehold, and the refugees came down, and the former. Uh, um, the Duke is now residing in exile in Radagast City and so forth. So there's this. You do have this impact from the wars, but it wasn't really deleterious because now they're taxing the exiles, so they're actually adding to their treasury in the process. So Ernst is a nice place. There's also a module floating around out there, Terrible Trouble at Treagle, which takes place in the city on the southeastern part of the county. So there is actually something going on there, adventure wise. Um, we then have the Duchy of Urnst. Again, same population roughly, except here you have a lot more gnomes and dwarves. Because if you notice, the Duchy of Urnst is on the border of not only the Cairn Hills but also the Aberals and those mountains that are there, and along the ridges of the edges of the Bright Desert. There's also the Celadon Forest, which is right there. So there's a lot more varied terrain here. The Duchy of Urnst gets a lot of wealth from the gold mines, from the dwarves and the gnomes, and it specifically says that the Duke is very good about making sure that the dwarves and gnomes feel taken care of in order to maintain that relationship. You'll also notice that Moray Castle is there. That's very famously Rob Kuntz's original dungeon, and it's been um, uh, detailed in Adventure, Mordenkainen's Fantastic Adventure, and also in the pages of Dungeon Magazine. They've done a whole bunch of stuff there. So there's a whole nother mega dungeon right there on the border of Ernst. Plus, you've got the Cairn Hills, where you have the Star Cairn modules and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff. Of course, to be expected as you're getting closer and closer to Greyhawk. So there's going to be a lot more material there. So it's as one would think. But it also makes for a very varied um, adventuring location because you've got the Celadon Forest, you've got the desert, you've got the hills, you've got the mountains, you've got a mega dungeon right there. There's a lot of interesting places and such to go. Um, Ernst was even more isolated from the wars than the county of Ernst. They're basically bankrolling Nyrond at this point, and it's a nice reversal because it seems like it's this little water place, the same with the county, but in fact, because they were so isolated and one of the few places in the whole Flanaess that didn't really get wrecked, um, one way or the other, they've come out of it being basically some of the strongmen. They have a great deal of leverage over the kingdom of Nyrond because they're supplying food and gold. So it's a very interesting time to be after the wars in the 585 to 591 era. Um, to go on about the Duke. Um, the Duke is not idle at all. In this, he has developed an excellent army of borderers while maintaining a centrally located force of cavalry. Um, Later on in the From the Ashes book, we learn that there was a lot of corruption that the Duke had just fortuitously gotten rid of right before the wars erupted. So there's a lot of uh, now, with sort of fresh blood, and a lot of the people who were pushed out of power were sent down to kind of like the Moray Castle area. So there's some of the villages and towns there could actually be ripe with not only corruption but also intrigue as they're seeking to get back into their places of power in Lukish, which is the capital. The Living Greyhawk Gazetteer kind of expands on that a lot and gets into detail about the Duke was an adventurer, and that's why he wasn't paying attention to what was going on and stuff. Meh. So yeah, that's that. But you get a lot of this stuff, and as I alluded to at the beginning, the Duke has been trying to merge his realm with the County of Urnst by marrying his son to the Countess, and the Countess has kind of been reluctant to pursue this for a variety of reasons. Obviously she doesn't want to give up the independence of her realm and so forth. One thing that is of note is that in Lukish, the Duke is also said to maintain a strong group of magic users who are there, including we know from one famous module, the Ghost Tower of Inverness. One is called the Seer because the PCs in that module are sent by the Duke via the seer. And the seer, I think, is actually brought back in later on in some capacity in some adventure somewhere. I remember seeing that. I forget exactly where, but that's that's definitely a thing. So these are a pair of countries very important especially in the post-wars era because they are unscathed. They are producing a lot of food, and they can contribute wealth to their good aligned neighbors. So they're natural places that you would expect to see. Uh, counter attacks kind of generating from. In fact, we read about in the County of Urnst, because the Duke of Ten is sitting there in exile. He comes to the Countess every once in a while with a request for troops or whatever to go off on some mission to go, to try to help liberate Ten. And she's kind of, she'll give him troops if it seems like it's a good idea, but she's reluctant to get more involved and stuff. So, you do have this level of political intrigue and such that I really enjoy. That's the stuff I eat up, because it's out of that kind of conflict, you get a lot of good adventuring stuff. So. And in terms of what we have in the glossography, in terms of the random encounter tables, we have demi-humans, a few bandits and brigands, not as many as you would see in surrounding areas, a lot of patrols. There are Renehi, because you're on the near dive, so naturally. And in the Duchy, you have tribesmen coming out of the Aber Als, and the desert, so you have that in there too. So. Anyway, that's what I've got on the County and Duchy of Urnst. I think they're very useful places, especially if you've got a Greyhawk-based campaign. It's not too far for your adventurers to go. You've got places for them to go and reasons to get them there. And getting them there is a relatively easy trip, either through the Cairn Hills or over the near dive. You can even work in the Renehi there. So, anyway, hope you like this one. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hope you're having a wonderful day. And stay safe from Pinkertons.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store, where you can buy my books, and my blog, where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.